Welcome, welcome to everybody who's joined us today, and our special guest. Poor woman has come to town for a holiday, and Norma just took her by the hand and sat her down and said, "You're playing." So this is Dawn Decker, and she plays at her own church back home. And yeah, so we welcome her. Yes. I think I'm fine. I think I'm fine. You don't need to answer this, but have you ever done something you didn't want to do, but you did it anyway and regretted it? Okay. Someone tells this story. I went on a canoe trip in college with a group of newly knitted dorm leaders. It was one of those community building trips where you bond and you learn leadership lessons before the school term begins. We had reached the end of the first day of canoeing the river, and we were taking a break before setting up camp and supper, and everybody was taking turns jumping into the river to cool off. I didn't want to do it, but the peer pressure started to mount, and the adult leader said, "If we're all sitting around the campfire tonight talking about how great it was to jump in the river, aren't you going to regret not doing it?" And I told him no, but that I'd do it anyway. Well, as I walked towards the embankment to jump in, my foot slipped, and I slammed my wrist into the ground, causing it to immediately swell. It was bad enough that the same adult leader and I had to hitchhike back to our vehicle and go to the hospital. I spent the rest of the trip in a cast full of us regretting our decisions. So, that's just setting the theme for today. So Dawn's going to play the piece once in his name, and then we'll join you on the second time round. important and the commonplace. May our hearts be open to be attentive, that praying we may perceive, hearing we may understand, and understanding we may act. May we make this so with us, so that we can follow in his footsteps, the one who taught us the words we now sing. Today's reading is from Mark, and it's the only passage in the Gospels that does not star or even feature Jesus and his disciples. Any guess what it is? Well, though the event is about John the Baptist, he is never fully on stage, just his head makes an appearance. Even its setting and the characters only have a slim connection with the Gospel's world. There are no miracles, no parables, no hint of the coming realm of God. It begins with Herod hearing something about Jesus. We can guess that it's about how he has gained some notoriety. It's a story where no one seems to be doing what they intend to do. John is effectively bound and gagged. The girl, Salome, really has no intentions of her own. Her mother has intentions, but she can't carry them out on her own. And Herod is committing acts he never intended. I think this may be a good example of a sadly dysfunctional family. But let's listen to the story.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, as Elaine said, Mark 6, verses 14 to 29. King Herod heard of all this, for by this time the name of Jesus was on everyone's lips. He said, "This has to be John the Baptizer, come back from the dead. That's why he's able to work miracles." Others said, "No, it's Elijah." Others said, "He's a prophet, just like one of those old-time prophets." But Herod wouldn't budge. "It's John, sure enough. I cut off his head and now he's back alive." Herod was the one who had ordered the arrest of John, put him in chains and sent him to prison at the nagging of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John had provoked Herod by naming his relationship with Herodias adultery. Herodias, smoldering with hate, wanted to kill him, but didn't dare because Herod was in awe of John. Convinced that he was a holy man, he gave him special treatment. Whenever he listened to him, he was miserable with guilt, and yet he couldn't stay away. Something in John kept pulling him back. But an important day arrived when Herod threw a birthday party, inviting all the brass and blue buds in Galilee. Herodias' daughter entered the banquet hall and danced for the guests. She dazzled them. The king said to the girl, "Ask me anything. I'll give you anything you want." Carried away, he kept on. "I swear, I'll split my kingdom with you if you say so." She went back to her mother and said, What should I ask for? Ask for the head of John the Baptizer. Excited, she ran back to the king and said, I want the head of John the Baptizer served up on a platter, and I want it now. That sobered the king up fast, but unwilling to lose face with his guests, he caved in and let her have her wish. The king sent the executioner off to the prison with orders to bring back John's head. He went, cut off John's head, brought it back on a platter, and presented it to the girl. And she gave it to her mother. When John's disciples heard about this, they came and got the body and gave it a decent burial. So why do we bother with this story? Because we are confident in the power of the Spirit to be able to impart wisdom to us, despite all the tragedy and negativity.
This isn't a great pick-me-up passage. Where, oh where is the message of the good news? Can the climax of any sermon about today's story be anything other than just a warning? So whatever you do, don't make really outrageous promises in front of dinner guests and never behead a prophet. This story stands right up there with the Aesop's fables and their dire moral warnings. So what can we do with this story if there seems to be no obvious, happy, hopeful message? Well, Mark must have thought it had some value, otherwise he wouldn't have included it with all the gory details. Matthew was obviously struggling with it because he actually shortened it, leaving out some of the details. Luke just left it out altogether. And that's a possibility for us. For we have 4 other texts that we could have wrestled with today, just forgetting this one. But I thought, let's give it a whirl. Try to find something that might be helpful for us in the coming week. So who are the players? Well, we have King Herod Antipas, ruthless ruler like his father. He is the head of this totally dysfunctional family. It would be better to die than to be brought to the dungeons of his palace. Dozens of men and women rotted in his dark prison cells. They were rat-infested rooms with living cadavers and lice coexisting. Rebels were thrown in to die slowly. There was a torture chamber with guards who were tasked to carry out the orders of the king. Doesn't sound like the kind of man you'd want to tick off. Just quietly go about your business, keep your head down and out of trouble, and you'd survive with all your body parts intact. John hadn't quite done that, of course. He got himself into trouble by questioning the moral decisions of Herod regarding his marriage to a relative, Herodias. There's some difficulty drawing Herodias' family tree. It was an arborist's worst nightmare. The branches were so intertwined and they bore singularly rotten fruit. According to Hebrew law, she had 2 strikes against her. One, she committed incest by marrying 2 uncles, and bigamy by remarrying while her first husband still lived. But John wasn't afraid to raise these improprieties to this happy couple's attention, and this was what landed him in jail. A gutsy man we have here, or we could say he was really stupid. But in his mind, principles were principles, and Herod didn't seem to want to mend his ways, and Herodias wasn't about to repent either. She was just pure evil. Although the gossip bothered her, it was the religious twist that John put on the technical incest that bothered her. John attributed all the stuff that had gone wrong in Galilee to their marriage. He said that the monotheistic God was angry with her, even more than with Herod. And God would stay angry with her and get more so the anger would continue to spill out over the whole of Galilee until she and Antipas split. So she had reason to want to get her revenge on John. She needed him dead. So as a kind of queen bee, she had time to let her anger fester and plan. There was a guest list to prepare, the menu, the food preparation to supervise, the seating plan, and of course the entertainment to arrange for her. Since she was Salome's mom and had watched her grow up and knew her strengths, she watched how her daughter had become quite agile and lissom as she twirled and glided about the women's quarters with her friends. And even though her cry of, when she was little, "Mama, watch me! Mama, watch me!" had become rather tedious over the years, Herodias saw now how to utilize her daughter's gift for her own good. She wasn't afraid to use her to gain hers and her husband's future security. We don't know how she worked her daughter into the entertainment of the evening, even if her stepfather had known she was going to be in the act. It doesn't look as if the daughter ever knew beforehand what her ultimate role in the whole story would be, but a lot was riding on Salome being really, really good, and she pulled it off. In front of a bunch of men who would have reclined on the equivalent of first century lazy boys, she performed the dance on the seven veils, and hers was an Oscar-winning performance. Then stepdaddy made the big mistake, which was exactly what Herodias had planned. She knew her guy pretty well, and she knew her daughter even better. He offered Salome anything she desired for her fine performance. And she was a mama's girl, the daughter of a woman determined to win in finance, in romance, in politics, all for her own gain. So to her mama she ran. "What do you want, Mom?" Poor Salome, young, naive, used, maybe craving for attention. But that wasn't Mom's concern right now. She was wanting revenge. She just wasn't wanting really a beheading. She wanted John disgraced and humiliated in such a vile manner that the word would spread far and wide. She would be seen as right and John as wrong. So the head had to come off. End of story. How did Herod react? He must have been feeling, I think, a little queasy. After all, as much as it had been him who put John in jail for reprimanding him, we're told that he rather liked to listen to him. Maybe John was able to stir up his conscience, getting him thinking about what was right from wrong, questioning if it was a good idea to get John's supporters all riled up and become a threat to the peace and order of his little corner of the Roman world. Perhaps he was even wondering about this one God idea that John kept pushing. We all know people who don't profess to be Christians, but who love to debate the merits of organized religion or a particular Bible passage or stance that the church has taken. Curiosity about another's views can make for an enjoyable discussion. That was where Herod might have been. Certain, uncertain, but curious. Feeling guilty, but couldn't stay away. And John kept pulling him back. But the pull wasn't hard enough, and he ended up succumbing to his wife's and his stepdaughter's feminine wiles. And besides, one can't be seen by friends and neighbors and political cohorts backing down on a promise, can they? Even if he knew better, saving face was more important. We know how the story ended. The gory scene with John's head being carried out on a platter. Who would want to hang around after seeing a severed head dished up as the final course? Some happy birthday finale for the guests. If we love tragedy, violence, gore, conniving, and manipulative, immoral people, this is a story to celebrate and share. But if we're trying to be faithful Christians and searching for what the Spirit might be trying to tell us, where, oh where can we find it in this sad excuse for a family? Can we possibly see any reflection of ourselves, our world, 2,000 years later in these events? The thing is, this story isn't all that different from many of the stories we read about and watch on television. There are parallels. If we think back, isn't Herod like first century Richard Nixon, so blinded by ambition that he was willing to sacrifice his principles for political gain? Maybe he seems more like the Don Draper of Mad Men. He gets so caught up in the ad world's perceptive practices that he can't tell the difference between a pitch and a profession of good faith. Can John possibly be like Martin Luther King and Oscar Romero? They were spiritual leaders willing to tell the truth to the powerful, whatever the costs, and they paid them. Or is John more like investigative news people who don't want to just relate the events that cross the newsroom desks? They want to dig and go after the truth, get to the bottom of the issue so that we, the viewers, can be informed. And then there's Herodias. Back in 2017, there was a series that came out of Edmonton called the Bad Girls Movie Club. And all the movies were about bad women. They were good movies, but about bad women. I think Herodias could take her place among them, along with Snow White's and Cinderella's wicked stepmothers. I hope we can't really find ourselves as being part of the story. But what can we get from it that's going to help us in the coming week? What is the Spirit trying to convey to us? Well, maybe Mark wants to impress us with two things. The first, Jesus' ministry, like John's, has significant political implications. And I don't mean political in a sense of who to vote for. I mean that the kingdom that Jesus preaches and challenges our fondness for the status quo on, and our all too easy acceptance that power and wealth and status or fame makes for right. Proclaim God's kingdom of mercy and grace, and as with Jesus and his forerunner John, there will be a cost to pay. Second, Mark wants us to take seriously that this is indeed the way of the world. Those who stand up to parliaments, legislatures, councils often take a beating. Those who advocate an alternative to the status quo can usually expect those who benefit from the status quo to come down on them hard. So Mark is, if nothing else, a realist. He's writing, after all, in the wake of the destruction caused by the Romans exercising their brutal power by destroying the temple in 70 AD. So part of why he tells this story is because this is the world as he knows it. The world he lives in, and by extension, the world we live in as well. So is there any good news in this story by itself? Not really. But this isn't the only story that Mark tells. This is not the whole story. It's not the end of the story. This is the way of his world, our world, but it's not the whole story. Because Jesus comes precisely to show us that there's something more. Something beyond the heartache and the intrigue and the tragedy of Herod and all those who came after him who had a little bit of his DNA still in them. Jesus came to help us to imagine that there is more to this life than we can perceive. Jesus came to offer us not just more life, but abundant life. Jesus came so that there could be a better ending to our stories, the story of the world that we can imagine and construct in our own. So when the temple has been destroyed, or your marriage is ending, or you've lost your job, or you fear your child will never speak to you again, or your grandchild, or you're pretty sure your friend has betrayed you, or you think you may just have screwed up the one relationship that meant something to you, and the possibility of another ending, a good ending, is indeed not just good news, but the best news that you can imagine. So believe it's a possibility. Thanks be to the Spirit for offering us this future hope. And let's sing. possibility of a letter Herod might have written to John.
Dear John, I don't know why I'm writing this really. You'll never read it. You can't read it. You're dead. I killed you. Oh God, you know how that haunts me. Do you know how much I wish I could go back and change things? I'd give anything for it to have turned out differently, John. You must believe me. I thought myself a king, ruler of all I surveyed. But I'm not. I'm nothing, just a foolish old man, destined to travel the path of the living dead. What will become of me? Do you care? Strangely, even in death, I have that feeling that you do. I wish I had had the courage to tell you while you were alive that you were right. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. Those nights when I would stagger down to your grimy cell, half drunk, relaxed enough to want to hear what you had to say. You got to me. Oh God, how it plagued me. I was out of control, John. Caught up in the deceit of my stolen throne, the mirage of being king of the Jews, the intoxication of power and prestige, and the women, and the wine, and the wealth. I had it all, yet I had nothing. My life was so shallow, so vacant, every crevice filled with fear and mistrust. And you knew that. All those times when I would hear you ranting and raving, I wanted to throttle you then. Not because you were wrong, but because you were right. We both knew the truth, but I was too scared to admit it. And then that night, that horrible, tragic night that sealed both our fates. Caught up in a moment of heated lust, caught up in my own self-adoration, caught up in a promise I knew I had to keep just to save my own reputation. What did it give me? Where has it left me? I'm sure you understand Herodias' concern. If all your talk about our marriage being illegitimate had really taken hold, she would have been stoned to death, or tossed out into the streets to forage in the gutter like some discarded animal. And I couldn't do that to her, John. I love her, right or wrong. You must understand that. Yet you know that I'm simply trying to justify it all, don't you? I could have found a way to keep her, to care for her. I could have sent her away to a secret place. I could have given up my throne. I could have done 1,000 things, John. But I didn't. I let my greed and lust for power choke out every ounce of decency in my being. Now, I have to live with that. I'm sorry. I know it can't possibly help you for me to say that, but somehow it helps me. Though you cannot read this letter, perhaps you can at least hear my cries and hear me begging God for forgiveness. And perhaps you, on behalf of the ages, might find that you can forgive me too. Sincerely, Herod of Galilee.
So the question is, do you want to sing, or do you want to go home 5 minutes early?
5 minutes early.
Okay, Okay, John, if you'd like to just go to the offering song, 538. Dale has spoken. There we go. John offered up his whole self anytime he was preaching about his faith. Let us gather up what we've got to share, remembering him. Generous God, we know that our lives are yours to live because you willed it.
Help us remember that while we have is an act of love from you. In turn, we give these gifts in the same spirit of abundant generosity shown to us. Amen.
Just a couple of announcements. So Bernina Bevan, I'm sure most of you know her, is having a show down in Kellyberry. Yeah, it's out on the sign too, but it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you need more information, give me a call. The garbage drawer. The garbage drawer on the coffee bar is at the left-hand end, and if you pull it out, the garbage is the front bin, the recycling is the second bin. Okay? I don't know if so several people are going to be away. I was going to have a Bible study, but several people are going to be away, so I think maybe not, and if it stays hot, we don't really want to do that, so I'll hold that off until the next week. I want to thank Dawn for joining us today. Norma's very grateful too. Right? And Pam is going away.
Elaine, there is a couple books in it.
Oh, yes. Yes, there are several books on the back bench there for your taking, if you need some summer reading. Yeah, Lois brought them in. Pardon? Oh, book club books. Oh, is there?
There's a couple in.
Oh, what do you mean, at the library?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there's still a couple of book club books in the library. It's not a very cheery book, but very deep. Yes. So Pam, Pam's leaving us for 6 weeks to go on the other side of the world. Yes. Do you realize that country is the 46th largest in the world?
Yeah.
26 million people stuffed in this little tiny island. And Canada has 40 million all across this huge country. I hope you're going to enjoy it. So Pam's going on a outreach. I don't want to say mission.
Well, I'm a field agent, but yes.
Field agent.
But it's a mission trip.
Mission trip.
Yeah, and I'll be with the orphans in Madagascar that the Anglican Church has been supporting. I'm going to be staying at the orphanage. I'm going to be traveling a little bit. I get to go to a celebration. There's going to be a celebration August 18th of 160 years of Anglicans serving as missionaries in Madagascar. And I get to go to that. And it's a 12-hour drive.
Oh.
And I'm going 400 kilometers in 12 hours.
In 12 hours. Oh, this does not bode well. This does not bode well. You have your gravel packed?
Yeah.
This is good. Oh, this is good. Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. And the reason we're looking so forward to it is because we have this gift to give Pam, and it's a, you describe it. You describe it.
It's a GoPro camera. So I'm setting up this weekend. I'm going to have a TikTok channel and I'm going to have an Instagram account. I will be sending out an email from the AMSC for Madagascar at gmail.com to anyone. If you're interested, forward it on. Anyone that's willing to follow me, if the internet is good, I understand I can buy a package there. I don't know how good it is going to be from where I'm at. I hope to be uploading short clips of what my experiences are while I'm there. And if it's not great, I'll send emails out with updates.
Yes.
And I'll have a show when I come home.
Yes, yes, so we're looking forward to it. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, we are truly a non-denominational church, aren't we?
Yes.
Perfect. So we're looking forward to this St. Mass.
Yeah.
As long as our techie people know how to do it. Yes. Yes. Let's pray. Caring God, we watched each other as we came in today. Perhaps we will continue to do so during the week. We watched as strangers joined us, and we were very happy to have them. We also think of those who are not able to be here. We sometimes even wonder about the strangers that we pass in the aisle at the grocery store or sit beside at a stop sign. And we wonder, how is their life going? Is everything okay with them? Do they need our prayers, our care? We often don't know where any of our lives are headed. The future can be uncertain, unknown at best. Sometimes all we can be sure of is the knowledge that you are present in them. We don't know how that will be made obvious to us. Perhaps it will be in a smile, a touch, or a hug from a friend. Perhaps in someone who is willing to listen to us without judgment when we find ourselves in trouble. Maybe you'll be made known to us through a stranger who unexpectedly offers us help in a difficult time. Possibly, we will see you in the care of a professional when we're unwell in mind or body, but seeking wholeness. Whenever, wherever, however, we find ourselves in stressful circumstances, send us gentle reminders that you are there to shelter us from harm, to remind us that you have gifted us with the qualities needed to weather any storms in our lives. Bless those who are traveling this week. May family parties and barbecues ring with joyful laughter. May meeting with friends renew bonds of support. When we meet strangers, may they widen our world and our knowledge of it. Bless Pam as she leaves in another couple of weeks. May she have all these experiences that will widen her understanding of where you are in the world and whom you can work through. But bring all these folks safely home. Keep the people of Labrador City and the firefighters who are protecting their homes and businesses safe as they evacuate. Continue to keep in your healing embrace those we know close to us who are struggling in body and spirit, or known even casually as neighbors or through friends. They are all part of the family of God. So all these things we pray for the sake of your unconditional love for us all. Amen. Oh. to sing. And now you can stand. We're going to sing 3 verses. Develops into habit, and habit hardens into character. This week, let's watch the thought and its ways with care. Let it always spring from a love born out of concern for all of God's kin. So